Hello. Today me and Tyler are doing a presentation on Nathan Leopold and Richard Loeb. This crime was a brutal murder and was known as the crime of the century. Chicago 1924, Nathan Leopold and Richard Loeb decided that they would commit a murder for fun. Nathan was a very young, intelligent boy that grew up in Chicago with a healthy and wealthy family.
Nathan was such a young, intelligent boy that his IQ exceeded the norm. They tried to decipher what his actual IQ was, but they couldn't figure it out.
Here's a photo of Nathan's house in Chicago. The house was considerable size for the time period that they lived in.
Nathan received his bachelor's degree from the University of Chicago at the young age of 18. He was so smart that he even contemplated going on to Harvard Law School.
Very intelligent man, but he lacked social skills and was a very odd-looking character. I think this is the reason it set him up for such a self-destructive path in the end.
Nathan Leopold's apprentice, Richard Loeb, was also a very intelligent young man from Chicago. He was the youngest guy to graduate from the University of Michigan at the age of 17.
So from Nathan Leopold, Richard Loeb was a very good-looking, charming young man, which made it very easy for him to talk to people and socialize.
So this is Nathan Leopold, and this is Richard Loeb. And despite all of Richard's charming personalities and intelligent aspects, he had a great obsession for crime. He often planned, read about, and committed crimes. Criminal activities became a game for Richard Loeb. He wanted to commit the perfect crime simply to prove it could be done. Nathan and Richard were extremely close friends. They were all each other had, even though Nathan and Richard didn't have similar interests. Nathan did not find crime fun like Richard did. However, Nathan's love for Richard would compel him to join in Loeb's criminal activities. Nathan Leopold and Richard Loeb committed plenty of less violent and severe crimes. They would rob and they would steal. And then one afternoon, Richard Loeb, who was the mastermind for the criminal activities, decided they would take Bobby Franks and Armand Deutsch, who were two neighborhood boys that they grew up with. They would take them and kidnap them for ransom because they knew the fathers of these two children were wealthy. However, Bobby Franks, who was this child, was the one who was murdered.
This is how the killing went down. On May 21st, 1924, Bobby Franks was on his way home from school without his friend Armand because he had a dentist appointment. Leopold and Loeb were waiting outside of Bobby Franks' house, where they lured him into their rental car and proceeded to club him to death with a chisel.
Me and River will create a visual so you guys can see how the murder went down. Bobby Franks is walking home from school as Loeb and Leopold roll up in their car.
Hey Bobby, get in.
What do you want, Loeb and Leopold?
I'll give you a lift, man.
Alright, sounds good. What's going on, guys?
Oh, I'm gonna kill you.
What do you mean?
You're gonna die.
I don't want to die.
Oh, you're gonna die, son.
No! Alright, son. After Nathan Leopold and Richard Loeb lured Bobby Franks into the car, they beat him to death with a chisel repeatedly before they drove off with Bobby Franks in the car.
After the killing, they then proceeded to dispose of the body. The two boys wrapped Franks' body in a blanket and dumped him into Wolf Lake, only after burning numerous parts of his body with hydrochloric acid to avoid identification. Boom.
After they killed him, Richard Loeb and Nathan Leopold took the body and wrapped him up into a blanket, as so. After they got him all wrapped up and they burned him with hydrochloric acid, they took him and hauled him over to Wolf's Lake and dumped him into the lake. Leopold and Loeb's plan was working to perfection. The police were frantically searching for Bobby Franks' killers. The two boys were executing the perfect crime without leaving a trace of evidence. Until one day, a considerable discovery was made at the crime scene. A pair of glasses were found near Bobby's body. Only 30 people purchased these glasses, one of them being Leopold. This was the first noticeable slip-up of the two boys. However, Loeb and Leopold remained calm and showed no guilt. These are the glasses that Leopold left at the crime scene. Not long after, investigators came to a conclusion that the glasses that were found at the lake by Bobby Frank's body were indeed Nathan Leopold's. They also made the discovery of the typewriter that was used to write the ransom note. The investigators combined the discovery of the typewriter and the glasses and decided to start questioning Leopold and Loeb. After strenuous questioning of the boys, Richard Loeb admitted to his crime. Soon afterwards, Nathan Leopold also confessed to the crime. The Leopold and Loeb families knew that their sons' lives were at stake due to their criminal activities, so they had to find a lawyer that could represent them. They hired the infamous Clarence Darrow. Clarence Darrow was the most famous lawyer at the time. His defense was known as $1 million defense. Despite his old age, his mind was razor sharp and had a personality that a common person could connect with. Darrow will showcase his highly experienced tactics when he decides to have Nathan Leopold and Richard Loeb plead guilty to their offenses. Clarence Darrow was an extremely smart lawyer. He understood that a jury would be hostile to two cold-blooded murderers. Therefore, he argued for an mitigation, which in a sense is where a conviction is decided only by a judge. Clarence Darrow realized that it would be harder for one man to make a life or death decision on someone than 12 jury members making the same decision.
Leopold and Loeb case was not much of a trial. It was actually more like a hearing because the guilt was already assumed. The defense was not to take the lives of these two young men. Loeb and Leopold pleaded guilty and did not plead insanity. Okay, here we have Richard Loeb, their attorney Clarence Darrow, and Nathan Leopold. Because the two defendants did not plead insanity, the prosecution said that psychiatric evidence was inadmissible. Clarence Darrow argued that the evidence of mental disease should be considered as a mitigating factor in the sentencing of Loeb and Leopold. A huge turn of the tables occurred when Judge Caverly ruled in favor of the defense, allowing psychiatric evidence to be introduced to the court.
The defense presented thorough psychiatric testimonies describing both defendants' emotional immaturity, obsession with misdemeanors, alcohol abuse, and many insecurities. Loeb's classmates and associates gave testimony to his deliverance, inappropriate laughter, and bad judgment, while Leopold's associates testified that he was self-centered and had a tendency to argue. The citizens of Chicago started a riot and mob. Clarence Darrow stated the courtroom was so jammed suffocation, with hundreds of men and women rioting in the corridors outside. Darrow added that the court was the only thing standing between the two boys and the bloodthirsty mob. This is an actual photo taken of the riots that were happening right outside the courtroom. Clarence Darrow had one of the strongest appeals and closing arguments in history. He blamed society for what these two boys had become. He made the judge feel sympathy and sorrow for these murderous boys, who were a product of a hostile environment. At the end of Darrow's appeal, the judge had tears rolling down his cheek. 2 weeks later, the judge made his decision. He called the murder a crime of singular atrocity. Finally, the case was closed, and Nathan Leopold and Richard Loeb were sentenced to life in prison plus 99 years. Their attorney, Clarence Darrow, saved them from the death penalty.